I'd like to say hey to all my viewers. I'm going to take about a week off. I've got some commitments and recharge to do, but when I come back, I'll be happy to keep going with the Lost Heroes of the Golden Age. Enjoy the video I have for you today. How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is another Lost Heroes of the Golden Age, and we are finishing Voice Month with
You missed the end of the old year.
Holidaying commitments made the video delayed, but we are putting it out now.
Happy New Year!
Yes, Happy New Year to all the viewers out there. I hope you had a pretty good 2023. Let's hope that 2024 sees us doing a lot better. And, oh yeah, if you like what you see here, make sure you're hitting that like button. All those likes make me feel pretty good. Anyways, we are going to finish out the Voice Month with an interesting one that comes out of Dell Comics. Now, I know I haven't reviewed too many of Dell comic books because they don't really do masked superheroes, but while doing the research for the Voice, I did find some that I would like to take a look at, maybe cover some more people in the future. Yeah, I mean, a lot of other places have more superheroes like the kind I like to cover. Dell has more grounded heroes, but they have a couple of superheroes that might be worth delving into. So we are doing the Voice. I gotta tell you, the way this thing is done, I would not mind actually seeing this one live action. It would be interesting. CGI would definitely have to be involved. They probably could green screen it. Anyways, let's go ahead and cover the Voice on the Lost Heroes. One thing I did forget to mention is in every one of the issues, even in the last issue, they always said to be continued, which was weird because most of the issues, maybe like one or two that weren't, where most of these issues were self-contained. So it wasn't a to be continued, but even the last issue said it. So let's go ahead and cover this Lost Hero of the Golden Age while we're rounding out Voice Month. I being a little bit late. The Voice, Tim Brandt, first appeared in Popular Comics number 53 in 1940. The publisher was Dell, created by Stanley Ashmeer. Now, I'm confused about this because I don't see Stanley's name anywhere in the issue at all, but under the Voice's name, especially in the first appearance, it says drawn by Jim Chambers. And all the other issues would have drawn by Jim Chambers. I didn't see Stanley's name anywhere. Now, the first appearance of the Voice would be the only time that he owns the cover. In later issues, he would appear on the cover or featured in this issue, The Voice. But this is the only time where he would only ever own the cover. He would appear in some of the other issues alongside of other people appearing, but it would never be his cover. Now, he was sometimes the featured story and sometimes the backup feature and number of times in the middle. Dell Comics didn't do what most other comic books did, where you put your most popular person in the comic in the very front and your least one in the back. Dell jumped around with their characters appearing at certain points in the comic books. I don't know if this was to generate readers, but they definitely didn't do it by popularity. Even sometimes the person who owned the cover wouldn't even appear first in that issue. There were a number of these issues where the gangbusters were the first were the featured cover, and the Voice was the featured story. So Dell kind of did things a little differently. Now, what's interesting is as we move along, the Invisible Detective, he kept getting different inventions that he never kept. In the second appearance, the professor, Brent Wilson, gives him a portable Sigma ray machine. The suits were treated with Sigma rays, which he could turn things invisible for 1 hour. He didn't keep it. He never used it again. He got an invisible pistol, which he only used once. He also got a gun that the professor created where he could shoot things and turn them invisible. He only used it for the one issue. Now, the suit started off only being able to be invisible for 2 hours at first. Later on, the professor upgraded it to 6 hours, and by the time issue 66 came around, he could treat suits for up to 24 hours, which played really well coming into the final issues, because with only the 2 or 6 hour time frame of being able to keep things invisible, it wouldn't have played into the stories too well, because they wouldn't have been anywhere near the machine to be able to turn things invisible, which is why either having that portable Sigma ray machine or the pistol would have been really handy. I mean, in the issues, it only made sense that he would have had them, since he puts on a scuba diving suit in one issue and he turns that invisible, yet the professor was nowhere around and there was no way that he could have had it treated. So, I mean, it would have had to have been the Sigma ray gun. I mean, that would only make sense, but they didn't show him using it. He just puts it on and immediately it turns invisible. There are a number of issues where we see him having an invisible hat, and a number of issues where he's not wearing the hat at all, because he had an invisible hood to go along with the entire suit. So, if he was wearing the hat, I would assume that the hood would have had to have gone over the hat, because just having an invisible hat didn't make any sense, and he didn't technically need one because he wasn't always wearing one. Now, Curly was his secretary, and Brett Wilson was the professor. They didn't appear in every episode along with Tim, but they both appeared in the majority of the issues. Sometimes if you'd have one, you wouldn't have the other, but there were times when all three of them appeared. Now, he only went on for issues 53 to 75, so 22 issues. He was slightly interesting. Some of the things were rather humorous when he was driving the car and you see the invisible car going. He always had an outline of him so we could tell where he was. But some of the things that he did while invisible was funny. He did kill some people when he needed to, especially when he had the invisible revolver. But he mostly brought people to justice. He didn't like to be the one having to dispatch people. He did not stay just in the city. He traveled outside the city. Now, one of the things about The Voice is he was already established at The Voice, and he says the criminal underworld knows and fears The Voice. But there were a number of times when The Voice was appearing, nobody identified him saying, "The Voice is here." It's like a voice appearing out of thin air. Now, when he ventured outside the city, it made sense that they didn't know who it was, but the criminals and the cops should definitely have known who The Voice was. So, he had some interesting gimmicks that only lasted for one issue, except for the fact that he went invisible. Sometimes had the invisible hat, not always, assisted by the professor and his secretary, but not always. Like I said, they introduced an interesting concept and then would do away with it in the next issue, which he didn't really need to. He could have kept these things. I mean, when you have the suit that goes for 24 hours, he didn't really need the gun anymore, but that would have made sense since he turned the cowboy outfit invisible, and I doubt that he would have taken the time to prepare a cowboy suit, because the cowboy hat, to be invisible, and it only made sense that he would have still had the invisible gun, because, I mean, who on a whim is treating a cowboy outfit? Hey, treat that cowboy outfit. We're going out west. Win, eventually. It only lasted for 24 hours. So let's go ahead and cover the first appearance, and you can kind of see what they were going for. Most of the issues kind of set the same tone. He's a detective. The only thing that was thrown into the mix that was a little different was the fact that he was turning invisible, which played into his favor a lot. I just wish the criminals weren't acting so stupid. They said that the criminal underworld knows and fears the voice, yet everybody just seemed completely, oh, there's a voice. Yeah, you're a cop. You're a crook. You guys should know. You've even established that he should know. No origin story. Let's go ahead and get into this. The Voice, the Invisible Detective, drawn by Jim Chambers. Already known to the frightened underworld as the Invisible Voice, Tim Brandt, private detective, returns to the laboratory of his friend Professor Wilson after successfully breaking the case of Killer Blonsky. Now, I got a little bit of a problem with this page, but let's go over this real quick. These invisible garments are the biggest discovery yet, Brett. They are new science of crime detection. Yes, Tim, provided the crooks don't learn the secret. Nobody's going to learn the secrets because nobody else can invent it. And then trouble is, Brett, that the treatment wears off in a few hours. Look, suppose it had happened when I was getting Blonsky's confession. One of these days, I'll learn how to make sigma ray treatments last. I'm trying different materials. The problem I have with this page is this feels like in movies where they say, as you know, you're telling him information that he already knows. I know it's for the benefit of the audience or for us, the readers, but you're telling him things he already knows. Like right here, trouble is, Brent, the treatment wears off in a few hours. He knows that. He's the creator. It really makes for an infuriating read when you're telling the guy stuff he already knows. Now, I know that we don't know that, and we need to, which this truly would have been better as an origin instead of an already established character, because then the information wouldn't seem so odd. Hey, Tim, you need to know this stuff wears off in a few hours. Well, that's great to know. I need to manage my time better. No, it's Tim telling Brett that it's like your invention only lasts a few hours. He knows that. He knows that because he's the inventor. Now, when he says that he's trying different materials, that's something different, and then we can learn something new. So far, cellophane works best. Here's something I wrote on with crown. This looks like writing in the air. And say, that's a way to scare the wits out of the crooks. Now, that is something new that Tim didn't know about before. But the first page, while the benefit of letting us know what's going on, you guys are just telling each other stuff that you already know, and no reasonable person would have a conversation like that. Okay. His phone rings, and he says he bets it's your secretary. Professor Wilson, this is Curly Rand, Tim's secretary. He knows who you are. He even said he bet it was the blonde secretary. You didn't need to identify yourself. I mean, you said your first and last name. I understand. Again, I go back to I understand this is for our benefit, but it's an infuriating setup. What's that, Curly? Hard Crush Appleton was murdered in his Winchester home? Meet me there in an hour. Okay. So, he's getting ready to go investigate the case, and this is perfect, and while I would love to see this live action, I've just treated this cellophane suit with sigma rays, hoods, gloves, boots, zippers, keep them closed. His head's gone. Where did his head go? This would be awesome to see in live action. And then we see him standing here. He took the hood and gloves off, and the head and gloves are floating in the air. I'll slip into the top coat. It'll look perfectly natural. Yo, yeah, you're invisible. So he puts on a coat, but then his legs are exposed. This whole thing is hilarious. One more thing, Brett. Let me have some extra sheets of invisible cellophane and red crown. Right, Tim. It might come in handy. You think? You just said that in the last page. I don't I find it kind of inexplicable of why he's wearing the invisible outfit now since he's not using it. Now this is great. He puts on clothes so as not to freak out the cab driver, yet in the very next page, he took the top coat off. You see him invisible in the back seat. At no point did the driver look in the rearview mirror and see that there's a disembodied floating head sitting in the back. Here we are, sir. And you know that it's not a normal driver, or he would have said, here you are, Tim, not here you are, sir. Okay. Gone. That guy must have jumped out of the last red light and left his coat. So, he gets to the mansion, and I guess at that moment, someone's standing guard and decides to look into the car, and there's nobody there. You take this bill, I'll take the coat. A voice speaking out of thin air. And you see, right here, his head is invisible, yet right over here, where he's talking to his secretary, his head's not invisible anymore. Is he just constantly putting on and taking off the hood? Tim, give me the coat before someone sees it dancing up the steps. Okay, Curly. Are you sure you don't want to say her first and last name? All right. Now, she says that she's Tim's secretary, and he's delayed, but he'll be there later on. So the police lets her in, and Tim is completely invisible because you can see the outlines, starts to investigate the house. Now I'm invisible. I can make the investigation without anybody crowding me. You're not wrong. The back of his head was crushed by heavy instruments. You're young Harry Appleton. May I offer you my deep sympathies? Thank you, Miss Rand. When Mr. Brandt comes, I know he'll find my father's killer. Which this obviously means Tim's reputation precedes him. Now they are standing over the body, and secretary is getting all the information. So the inspector starts to recount what he sees at the scene. Very well, you see Appleton was struck from behind, yet he must have seen him. You mean the murderer was someone he knew and trusted by him? So he says that he was struck by the paperweight, and he wanted Appleton, or the younger Appleton, to, take it and show us how the blow was struck. No, I won't touch it. That's not fair. Rats. If he was innocent, would he act that way? Or would he act that way? You're a detective. I mean, that was a stupid statement. Okay, so he says that they were arguing over the expects account, and then the voice decides to intervene. You're wrong, Inspector. It's Appleton. He's looking at us. It's not Dad's voice. Let's see. Look at the dead man's eyes, Inspector. Now, this is what I don't understand. The voice is well known in the criminal community, and things that are known by the criminals are widely known by the cops as well. So this inspector should know. I mean, he's like the voice without a body. He should know who the voice is. If the voice is already known, then the inspector would know that the voice exists. So he should know that. It shouldn't be the voice without a body. It should be, it's the voice. He's here now, or whatever. He's talking about how Appleton was poisoned, and then he was drugged, and he was unconscious, and then he was killed. Well, he said he was hit in the back of the head. The inspector may have the wrong object, but he had the right idea. I mean, he said the killer saw him, but anyways. But Sergeant, we all heard the voice. Even admitting that, I won't believe it. Maybe you've all gone nuts. Oh my God, you people are stupid. So the butler tries to conveniently leave the situation, which, butlers are sneaky people, but the voice sees that the butler is leaving, and he follows him. As he goes to this washroom, I'd better wash the blood off of this while I've got the chance. That was an odd object to use to kill somebody. I mean, he said it was blunt force trauma, so he must have used the back of the axe and not the blade. But it looks as if the blade is covered in blood, but they didn't say anything about having an axe wound in the back of his head. Murderer, the bloody weapon convicts you, and the butler starts to run because he doesn't know what's going on, and Tim runs after him with the bloody axe. That's hilarious. This really needs to be made into live action. So the axe goes whizzing past everyone. Who threw that? I am impressed that nobody bumps into the voice by accident. So he says, who threw that? And then Tim, still invisible, grabs the butler and brings him back into the room. He's got a knife. He'll hurt. Stay back, Miss Rand. He's having a fit. So he grabs a knife because he wants to kill whatever is contacting. If it's a ghost, I mean, you have no idea that it's the criminal, or it's the detective, the voice. So, I mean, what are you going to stab? The voice writes in red on the sheet of invisible cellophane. Cellophane? Letters of blood floating in the air. I'm gonna go ahead and say yes, just considering the situation, but I'm pretty certain that if you wrote on a sheet with crayon, it wouldn't look like blood. Okay. Confess. They're coming towards us. Yes. He's so scared by what he sees. Yes. I drugged Mr. Appleton's wine and then killed him with the axe. He found out I'd been stealing from him. He's confessed. Handcuff him. The voice again. Why are you guys so surprised by this? I mean, he's already known. Now, he goes into the other room and he removes the invisible suit without anybody noticing. Okay. And then he walks in. I think this is kind of funny. He walks in with his arm draped over the side, with his arm draped in front of him. And that's usually how, when people were carrying their overcoats, would do. It would drape over its arm. I believe that he's holding the suit, but we can't see it, so it's invisible. So he's over here with his arm cocked as if he's holding the suit, but there's no suit to be seen. It looks like you caught your murderer. We have, and no thanks to you, Brant. But you ought to thank the voice inspector. Yeah, I mean, Tim needs to make a more active role in these investigations, or, I mean, if it doesn't look like he's solving the crimes, nobody's going to call him anymore. So he needs to, even if the voice is going to take over, he does need to make a more active role. I'm glad, Mr. Appleton, that justice and the voice have been so swift in catching your father's murderer. The voice, if there was some way to thank. Okay, the last panels here. Tim, when criminals learn the voice can be anywhere, invisibly spying on their every move, crime will die out. Right, Curly. We must guard the secret with our lives. Watch the invisible voice solve other crimes in the forthcoming issues of Popular Comics. I really hope that they went outside before they had that discussion. Because, I mean, all the pages seem to transition, so it didn't say later that day or later that night. They just start having this conversation. Okay. This is the first issue. First appearance. Alright, I hope you liked this one. I hope that you learned something. If you have any requests, make sure you send those in. I always like doing requests. And, let's kick this off. Let's kick this year off. Getting close to 300 videos. I know the numbering and how many I have didn't actually. I didn't expect to be doing this many Lost Heroes. Anyways, until next time, I'll be seeing you.